If it's Tuesday, it's time for Pop-Off Politics. Every week, we examine the city of Houston and the agenda of its city council. But today, we're pumping the brakes and turning our focus onto Austin and the impeachment of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. KPRC2 investigator Mario Diaz is back from Austin. You spent pretty much the entire holiday weekend in Austin, or going back and forth from Houston to Austin, monitoring this situation from the state capitol.
It's been a fascinating weekend up at the state capitol. If you have seen what's been happening there, I think of a few words that come to mind. Historic, surreal, complex for Republicans because of the fact you have such a popular Republican in office for many, many people on that side of the aisle who find themselves now having to truly comprehend what is at stake here.
With that said, I want to get everybody caught up on where things are. If you don't mind, I'm going to do some rapid questions with you. Is Ken Paxton completely out as AG?
Short answer, no. And the reason for that is really simple, okay? He still has to be impeached by the Senate. If he's convicted there, then he is gone.
Who is currently the acting AG?
A gentleman by the name of Brent Webster. He is the first assistant, the top assistant for Ken Paxton. He is in there for now. The governor can put somebody that he wants in there as well for the time being. So we're going to still see, this is so fresh. I mean, it really is fresh. So we're going to see how things shake out here in the coming days.
Again, this appointment will come from the governor.
On an interim basis.
Yes.
But if Paxton obviously is convicted, and then he'll have somebody in there, then they'll eventually, from what I've gathered and been told, there'll be a special election.
Okay, how quickly can we see Paxton on trial in the state Senate?
You know, this is a question that many people were asking leading up to last week because of the fact that we haven't been here before in quite some time. In fact, the last time they had a impeachment trial in Austin was in the 1970s. Usually they try to do it as quickly as possible. However, what we've been able to understand, and now we know, is that the trial will happen no later than August 28th. Zach, keep in mind, there's a lot of moving parts here. You have to prepare for a trial. But I had people telling me last week, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in 3 weeks. Oh, wow. Meaning at the end of June. But then you had the announcement yesterday. You also have here, and we have to keep this in mind, we also have a special session going on. And as a result of this special session, you've got to try to obviously navigate everyone's schedules. The difference this time, though, around is that you have House managers, about 12 of them. You don't have the entire House involved on the Senate trial. But in the Senate, on the Senate side, everyone has to be at the trial.
How do we end up here where we're at today?
It ended up here because of whistleblowers that came forward with regards to improprieties that they said took place in the office of the Attorney General. And when that took place and they came forward with that, they were ultimately fired immediately. And they went back and said, listen, we cannot be fired. We are whistleblowers. It goes against state law. So what happened was there was a trial, there was an agreement. They settled on that agreement, a wrongful termination. They were paid millions. And then Ken Paxton wanted the state legislature to make the payments for his alleged acts. As a result of that, you had the committee in the legislature that does investigating. They're called the Committee on General Investigating. They said, let's wait a second here. We want to really figure out why the Texas taxpayer, why Texans have to pay for these acts. So what happened was they started investigating. And the investigation happened very quickly, around March to now. And they found all of this evidence. Obviously, they spoke with the whistleblowers, many witnesses. And what happened was Saturday night, they presented the articles of impeachment to the House formally. They had done so a couple of days earlier so everybody could have the understanding of what they're going to be talking about. And when they presented it and they closed the argument, you had over 100 Republicans vote against their own party with regards to Ken Paxton. And that is why this now goes to the Senate. Remember, you have to be impeached in two places for the most part. It has to be in the House as well as in the Senate.
You mentioned articles of impeachment, 20 to be exact. Which ones do you believe will be most scrutinized during this process?
I mean, first off, 20.
Yeah.
That's a big number. But you heard words like conspiracy. You heard words like a mistress. You heard bribery. And there was multiple references to Texas law being broken. And it was House Republicans who painted the chief lawman in Texas as a lawbreaker. And those were the acts that make it very challenging for Paxton to have to defend in the Senate because, to be frank, he really hasn't spoken to these allegations. On Friday, I was at the news conference that they called at the last second.
At 4 o'clock, right?
At 4 o'clock with the Attorney General. He was there, and I said, hey, you know, he made the comments. He spoke to the media, walked right off of the stage there, off camera. He just went just like that. And as soon as he took off, I said to myself, he's not coming back. So I asked a question saying, you know, General, do you have any comments with regards to this? He just kept on walking. In comes his number two to speak, the head of his general litigation, a gentleman by the name of Chris Helton. He comes to speak. He puts out the statement. They really don't go in depth to the allegations that were made by the House.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a very difficult situation to have to defend right now.
Right.
And that's what makes it
especially because we're so early in the process, too.
Right. And there's a lot of facts there. And they know that we're going to be able to ask, at least from my perspective, whether, hey, you've seen me. I ask a lot of tough questions of any politician when I have the opportunity to ask those questions. And there are some very difficult questions. I mean, we're talking about conspiracy, bribery. We're talking about the issue of a mistress. These are not light subjects.
For you, are those the big issues here?
I think from what I think from what I've gathered on Saturday night and listening to that hearing throughout the course of the day on Saturday afternoon, those are the ones that are hammering because you think about it. People at home do not want to feel like they're being taken advantage of, regardless of the party. It happens on both sides. And when you hear those kind of words of alleged criminality involving someone who is the chief law enforcement officer in the state of Texas, it concerns them. It frustrates them. And that's what you saw out of those Republicans in the House who voted against him. They were frustrated and concerned about their actions because to them, this is a violation of the law. Again, this wasn't just a partisan political issue. This was bipartisan support to vote for the impeachment on the House side.
Yeah, and we saw that with a number of Republicans who came forward.
Exactly.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
It's going to be intriguing because obviously you have Senate Republicans who are much different than the House Republicans. And the findings that the House Republicans have discovered is very key right now. It will be interesting to see how they present these findings in the Senate and how they are received by the Senate. Again, they need approximately 9 votes, Zach. And you also, let's not forget here, you have a state senator who also is married to the Attorney General.
We talked about that.
And yesterday, I was interviewing John Whitmire about process. We weren't talking about the facts of the case. And Senator Whitmire was there, and I noticed as I was interviewing him over his right shoulder, out walks Angela Paxton. And we're talking about this process, and I asked him, can you turn over to your shoulder there? Does that state senator make this more complex? And Senator Whitmire immediately said, I am not going to make any kind of opinion with regards to this.
Interesting.
We just spoke about process. And the reason for that is because we do have a trial. They are the jurors. They do not want to obviously taint what's going to be happening in the coming weeks. It's historic.
It is.
It is something that is once in a lifetime. And it's going to have right now, a resolution that nobody knows which way it's going to go.
Yeah, no doubt historic and very, very interesting. Mario, as always, thank you.
All right.